don't have to be a rocket scientist to oppose a rocket launch.
Welcome to 48 South 7th Street. I'm Aisha Parker Hicks. I'm an activist in San Jose, California, passionate about those issues that affect us all. Today we're talking with McGregor Eddy. She's a mother, a nurse, a board member of the Global Network Against Weapons and Nuclear Power in Space. She's a coordinator of the Keep Space for Peace events at Vandenberg Air Force Base and El Segundo Space and Missile Center. McGregor has been issued a lifetime ban and bar by the military commandment of Vandenberg and is facing 3 federal trials for attending legal peace demonstrations in the designated protest area, where there's also 8 co-defendants. McGregor, welcome.
I'm glad to be here. I'm really pleased to be here. This is nice.
So tell me, why is this a passion of yours?
Well, it kind of caught me by surprise. I'd been busy raising children, working as a nurse, as all of us are. We don't go around looking for new problems. And as we were running up to the Iraq War in 2002, I found out about this place pretty close to us in Santa Barbara County, where they launch rockets that put satellites into space that actually control the war in Iraq and Afghanistan, because it's all done apparently from space. And I was like, I'm going, okay. And so in 2002, I was pretty upset about what we were bombing Afghanistan and what we were getting ready to do to Iraq. And I have 3 children, and they were all grown up now. They were educated, and I've been active in the peace movement since I was 16, so I decided it was my turn to risk arrest. All these times I always was the one that was hanging back, you know, because I have children. As all of you know, children come first. So I got arrested in 2002, and that was an education. I was guilty because I had crossed the line, and I read the Nuremberg principles, which say that attacking a country that has not attacked us is a war crime, and that the soldiers on the base have the right to refuse to do it. And I read that to them, and I was convicted. And because of that conviction, even though I paid the fine and did my probation, they say I can never come near the base again. Me and about 6 other people are on this, what they call lifetime ban and bar. So that kind of intrigued me. I thought, what are they doing that they don't want us? You know, I'd only learned a little bit, so I started learning more. And yeah.
I think that's a distinguishable list to be on, the ban and bar list. So what about this nukes delivery system?
Well, see, that's one of the things that I learned, and it caught me by surprise. You see, like most Americans, I thought that the Cold War was over, that, you know, that we, although we're heavily armed in conventional weapons and drop lots of regular bombs, I did not think that we were developing and testing new thermonuclear warheads. You know, hydrogen bombs, they're all hydrogen bombs. Did you know that the atomic bomb is used as the trigger to set off the hydrogen bomb?
I had no idea.
That's it. They use they're so big, they use an atomic bomb to set off the hydrogen bomb. Anyway, that's what we have. And these bombs, we have 10,000 of them. And Russia has about the same amount. France and England have some, but I've been told that one of our Trident submarines has as many as France and England put together. So we're really talking Russia, the former Soviet Union, and the US. So, who are right now, yay, negotiating to reduce these. But there's a treaty called the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, which has gotten a great deal of publicity from the US, but mostly about other countries' obligations. So what are our obligations under this treaty? It's a very good treaty. in this treaty, the countries that have nuclear weapons promise to disarm in good faith if the countries that don't have nuclear weapons promise not to get them. That's the deal. There's other portions of the deals, you know, right to inspect each other, the right to use nuclear energy for civilian use, which has gotten controversial, and other things. But the basic thing is that the countries that have nuclear weapons promise to disarm and to stop developing new ones. Well, at Vandenberg, it's called Vandenberg Space Command, they are routinely, and have been since 1958, and have been testing Minuteman III. This is you can see here that this is a Minuteman III intercontinental ballistic missile, solid fuel, high speed, capable of going, 5,000 miles in about 27 minutes. The target is Kwajalein in the Marshall Islands, a beautiful coral atoll 5,000 miles away that we already bombed extensively when testing after World War II. So when I found out this was happening, I was kind of surprised. And I found out that most people didn't know that it was doing it. Most people said, oh no, they're just sending up weather satellites. You know, we don't do that anymore. And
I agree, I had no idea.
Most people don't. Most Americans don't know we're doing it. So to me, what we're doing at Vandenberg is trying to make the invisible visible. Because like what happens is people go out and, oh, it's going to be a launch, let's take pictures, it's really pretty, you know, you see the trial. Where does it go down? What do you mean, where does it go down? What is it? What are they testing? What do you mean, what are they testing? It's just a rocket, isn't it cool? Well, actually they are pretty cool. I mean, I like science, and you know, I love to go see another planet, and you know, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about testing a delivery system for a hydrogen bomb. Why do we need that? These things were developed for an enemy that no longer exists, the Soviet Union. We are breaking the Non-Proliferation Treaty. It is illegal under international law to do this. So I feel that when I went to Vandenberg, I was upholding the law. Okay, so I crossed the line, that was trespassing, I was convicted. Now we have this ban and bar. Me and, let's see, Father Louis Vitale, who's a Catholic worker, who's fairly well known. Father Steve Kelly, another priest from the Pacific Life community. Dennis Apple and his wife Hortensia. A young man named Jorge Manley Gill, and a couple Catholic workers from Los Angeles. So it's mostly men, 2 women, mostly religious, a couple not. So we're all on this list that says, get this, we can't even drive by the base and stop the car. It specifically says we can only stop the car if we have a medical emergency or if the car breaks down.
Wow.
So this is like a military commander issuing an order over civilians, and we're going to fight it in court, and I think we'll win. We've got wonderful lawyers who, because it's so outrageous, are saying we can take care of this. But why are they suddenly preventing us from doing the protests? People have been protesting there for years. They've been having a little peace vigil out there for 14 years, the first Wednesday of every month. And on November 4th, they came out, and a World War II veteran named Bud Booth, who is 85 years old, he flew in the Army Air Corps with Howard Zinn. Some of you may remember Howard Zinn. They flew in the same squadron. Before there was an Air Force, they know very well who he is. They came out. They wanted to see his ID, even though they knew exactly who he was. He's been there. He didn't. They handcuffed him with metal handcuffs, and because he's elderly, when they searched him, they grabbed it and they tore his skin and his shirt, and he was hurt. Well, they're now charging him with a Class A misdemeanor, has up to a $100,000 fine, for being in the designated protest area. So since that happened, more of us have been going, and they've arrested now 8 of us. So we're fighting it.
Why is this happening now?
Well, I think it's because of the new hope to abolish nuclear weapons that is spreading across the world. I think that we are pointing out what is happening at Vandenberg. And for example, Japanese national TV came and covered one of our protests. They had come to cover the launch because the launch is important. The other reason is more and more people are paying attention to the incredible cost of the so-called Star Wars missile defense. They just had a test on January 31st, which failed. Cost $150 million. That's just the test, not the whole program, which is billions and billions. Now, our libraries are cutting back their hours. Our after-school programs, so that kids aren't loose on the street getting involved in gangs, are being cut back. Our cities need to be repaired. Why are we spending billions of dollars? And remember, a billion's not 10 million, that's 10 million. It's not 100 million, it's 1,000 million. Why are we spending $1 billion to defend against an enemy that doesn't exist anymore? So why do you think?
I don't know. I mean, I think national security is something that people really rely on, you know, given after September 11th. I think that we've kind of given ourselves a blank check in national security.
Yeah, but would missile defense have had any effect on the September 11th?
Absolutely
Absolutely not. Because it's designed for incoming ballistic missiles, which is, a military guy told me this. He said, if a rogue state or terrorists were going to attack the United States, an incoming ballistic missile is the least likely way to do it. Why? Because you can see it coming and you know where it came from. It has a return address, you know, and even if a small state they'd only have a few, we got 10,000. He said, whatever terrorists, or what we need is good police work, good intelligence, maybe a, you know, accurate list. Maybe if someone's father gives us a hint, listen to him. I don't know. Just, you know, some ideas that you and I might have that'd be a lot cheaper than building a missile defense that wouldn't have made any difference on September 11th, wouldn't have made any difference to a truck in Oklahoma, and was designed for an enemy that's gone. An enemy that isn't our enemy anymore, and is in fact sitting us there and telling us, this is the Russians. You want our advice? Get out of Afghanistan. That's what they're saying. We were there.
Now, do you think most people understand the quagmire that is Afghanistan?
You know, I don't understand how we can be making the same mistake that so many other countries have made. Even Alexander the Great came to grief in Afghanistan. It's called the graveyard of empires. It's mountainous. The people who live there fight hard. When nobody's bothering them, they fight each other. When anybody comes in, they fight whoever comes in. That's it. If you're from outside, and I'm not making this up, we're talking 2,000 years of history. So everyone who's been there, the British Empire, the Russians, says, just, what do you think you're going to do? So my nephew was there, and he volunteered. He was gung-ho. He says to me, we're getting killed and making enemies. And this is not a sophisticated young man. This is a guy who wanted to go, thought it was really cool, and he says, we are getting killed and making enemies.
It's almost like a Greek tragedy, what's going on there.
It's a little bit. But do you know that what we're using in Afghanistan now?
No.
We're using drones. Drones are like planes that are armed. There's Predator, Reaper, they have these terrible names, but they don't even have a pilot. They're controlled by like a video game from people that are sitting in like Indian Springs, Nevada at Creech Air Force Base, or in Omaha at Offutt. And they are bombing by satellite. Now, why is this relevant? Where do you think the satellites are launched? The satellites are launched at Vandenberg. If you look here, this is what a polar orbit is. Vandenberg is the only place that we can put satellites into polar orbit. And you need polar orbit to see the whole world. That's what the military needs. And in order to control drones from around the world, you need to have those satellites in the sky launched from Vandenberg. So what does Vandenberg do? It breaks international treaties by testing thermonuclear warhead delivery systems routinely. It launches satellites that are used to dominate the entire world. What percent of the world is the U.S., roughly.
5 population?
Maybe 6, you know, they say 5 point, you know, something like that. The policy, by the way, this is not a conspiracy theory, it's like openly stated, this is the Air Force magazine, it says,
space, the ultimate high ground.
the space, the ultimate high ground. That means that if you've got the high ground, like remember the Battle of Gettysburg, if you have the hill, you win, right? If you control the space, as you can see here, the satellites that we have go all around the world, you control Earth. And they specifically state at Vandenberg and at the space commands that their goal is to deny access to space to other countries. That means that 5% of the world's population says we own the heavens above. When you look up into the night sky, the whole thing is ours. Now, I know people throw around words like arrogant and imperial, but that strikes me as a little bit presumptuous.
It does sound like something out of Star Wars.
It's like the whole sky, the whole space. Now, the other countries do have satellites up there. You know, the European Union has, China has some, but you know, we have the vast majority of them. And that is the goal of the Space Command. They call it, and this is their name, full spectrum dominance. That means that through satellite, they control air, sea, and land, meaning they can target from land with GPS so that even the soldier on the ground in Iraq is using GPS to target and find out where he is. These chips use them. What and how much is this costing? And how many friends is it making us? And how is it making us safer? When we take a drone, a military guy told me, he said, if you do a drone attack in Afghanistan, or even a rural area of Pakistan, which we're doing now, and you kill 100 people, and 98 of them are your deadly enemies, actually the ratio is probably quite different, but 98 are your deadly enemies, and 2 are innocent civilians, you've lost, because those 2 innocent civilians have enough friends and family that will remember it, that you have replaced the 98 that you killed and created them. And that was a military guy. He says, so what are we doing? And why are we spending this money? Now, why Vandenberg? Because it's close. It's the only place in the world that we test intercontinental ballistic missiles. It's the only place in the world that we launch polar satellites. Therefore, even though it's down in Santa Barbara County, it's in our backyard. And just like we want to be, you know, like eat locally, we're kind of responsible for what we do locally. So if we have something that is dominating the globe just down the road. So I go down, I take the train, it's a beautiful view. I invite you to come with me, call it the Peace Train, go to protests. And when they have a launch, we go out and we protest. And right now, they're contesting our right to do that.
I would never think of anything in idyllic as Santa Barbara also being home to something like Vandenberg.
It's actually about 50 miles from Santa Barbara.
Okay.
It's near Lompoc, spelled Lompoc, and it's like between San Luis Obispo and Santa Barbara, but it's huge. It is very big. It has like a 55-mile, it's right past Point Concepcion. If you take the Coast Starlight train, go green, take the train. Yeah, you'll go right through it. You'll see the gantries. You'll see what would have been the space shuttle. They were going to put the space shuttle at Vandenberg, but then the Challenger disaster, remember that? They canceled that. They thought, let's just slow down with the space shuttle thing. But the shuttle still, if it can't land in Florida, it'll land in the ocean near Vandenberg. So, but the third thing that Vandenberg does is this incredible Star Wars missile defense, which is hugely expensive. And why is that relevant? I mean, life is hard. People, they're losing their houses. They're having a hard time with businesses failing. People are losing their jobs. If you do anything, I'm in healthcare. Why are we willing to give up so much of our money trillion for this elaborate system that is not needed and does not work. The last test failed. Most of them have. So I think that when we look at the libraries and the schools, and even the potholes in our streets, or public transit, or more trains, we need to think about Vandenberg, because that's where your money is going. And I am really tired of hearing people say, "What do you think Obama's doing?" My answer is, what are you doing? Because this is a huge juggernaut that Eisenhower warned us against.
Military-industrial complex.
Yep, of the Raytheon and Lockheed Martin, all these people that make these things and these contracts that are already in place and these things that have already been set up. But they did cancel one. When Obama did his Pacific Asian tour, there was an ICBM launch scheduled for, you can check this, November 17th, 2009, when he was going to be in Seoul, South Korea. And since our country's asking for sanctions against North Korea for launching a couple short-range missiles, it would have been very embarrassing for us to launch a long-range missile while he was right there in Korea. And I think it's a great improvement to have a president who would find that embarrassing. Because I don't know about you, but the last one wouldn't have found that embarrassing at all. So I think we have a prayer. I think we have a prayer. And I think that the question before us is, what do we do?
I belong to a generation that isn't really familiar with a lot of marching and protesting. And at the same time, we grew up with a president that we might necessarily have supported or that was very aggressive towards other countries and the military-industrial complex. So how does this next generation get involved? You know, because we're really bearing the brunt of all the things that are being cut at the expense of.
Well, I work with young people. I do alternatives to military in high schools, and I go in with college students. And I think young people.
I'm sorry. I know there's you have a counter recruitment movement. A lot of people might not know just what the recruitment measures are.
What we do, what we mostly do is we go in and make sure that young people know that there's other ways to get money for college and get away from home, like AmeriCorps. So I don't want to get into that now. I'd love to do a whole other program on it sometime because it's actually a lot of fun. But I get to know young people, and I think that it's not that young people are conservative or ignorant. I think that people are overwhelmed with the sheer exhaustion of making a living. If you're going to college, tuition is high, school aid is low, mom and dad's business is in trouble, and people are overwhelmed with the problems of everyday life. And as services are cut, more burden falls on women because as social services are cut, care for the elderly, care for ill children, care for the retarded, these are tasks that are generally taken up by women. And I'm a member of the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom, which is the co-sponsor, and we'll give you, at the end of the program, we'll give you some contact information of these actions with the Global Network. We work together, we co-sponsor them. I myself am a Women's International League for Peace and Freedom lifetime member and loyal supporter. A very large number of peace activists are women. So if more and more of the social burden is falling on women, they're just exhausted. It's a very good political tactic. And young people are running from job to job to pay for their car, to pay so they can get to their job, so they can pay their tuition. I think that they're progressive. I have great hope for the future, but we need to get to work and not regard it as another problem, regard it as a solution.
You know, that are dealing with these huge issues.
And they're not that huge because I think the reason they're cracking down on us with these ban and bars is that we're having an effective, because they canceled that launch. They wouldn't have canceled that launch if people didn't know about it. And I think people know about it because we have slowly and steadily, been educating people about what is happening at Vandenberg. So I invite you the end of the program, there'll be contact information for the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom. Get in touch and find out when the next time we go down. It's fun. We'll take the train, low carbon imprint.
I will be there. Thank you so much for coming. The passion that you have for this issue is just palpable.
And you know what? It's really been a pleasure to meet you.
You too. I'm so grateful that for all the information that you've given us today. And we'll have the information for everyone else that would like to participate.
Right. And remember, you don't have to be an expert on these things. My motto is, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to oppose a rocket launch.
Everywhere we go, we always drop a lot of bombs. Everywhere we go, we always shoot a lot of arms. How come folks around the world don't love us for our charms? When we come to set them free, says we are always building empire, building economic empire, building military empire, as the world can plainly see. If we want respect, we have to listen and to share. Give up domination, exploitation everywhere. Work for peace and justice with our neighbors and be fair. Then the world will see we care. Anymore, who's in charge to gain from post-war? Who's in charge? Who's in charge? American corporations. Holly, Halliburton, Holly, Halliburton, Holly, Halliburton profits from war. Holly, Halliburton, Holly, Halliburton, Holly, Halliburton profits from war. The U.S., they bomb, bomb, bomb. There's no more calm, calm, calm. Like Vietnam, num, num, we profit from war. Who rules? Who rules Iraqis? Who's in charge? Shiites think they are. Who's in charge? Sunnis not anymore. Who's in charge to gain from post?
You don't have to be a rocket scientist to oppose a rocket launch.
Welcome to 48 South 7th Street. I'm Aisha Parker Hicks. I'm an activist in San Jose, California, passionate about those issues that affect us all. Today we're talking with McGregor Eddy. She's a mother, a nurse, a board member of the Global Network Against Weapons and Nuclear Power in Space. She's a coordinator of the...
It's all done, apparently, from space. And I was like, I'm going, okay. And so in 2002, I was pretty upset about what we were bombing Afghanistan and what we were getting ready to do to Iraq. And I have 3 children, and they were all grown up now. They were educated, and I've been active in the peace movement since I was 16, so I decided it was my turn to risk arrest. All these times I always was the one that was hanging back, you know, because I have children. As all of you know, children come first. So I got arrested in 2002, and that was an education. I was guilty because I had crossed the line, and I read the Nuremberg principles, which say that attacking a country that has not attacked us is a war crime, and that the soldiers on the base have the right to refuse to do it. And I read that to them, and I was convicted, and because of that conviction, even though I paid the fine and did my probation, they say I can never come near the base again. Me and about 6 other people are on this, what they call lifetime ban and bar. So that kind of intrigued me. I thought, what are they doing that they don't want us, you know, I'd only learned a little bit, so I started learning more. And yeah.
I think that's a distinguishable list to be on, the ban and bar list. So what about this nukes delivery system?
Well, see, that's one of the things that I learned, and it caught me by surprise. You see, like most Americans, I thought that the Cold War was over, that, you know, that we, although we're heavily armed in conventional weapons and drop lots of regular bombs, I did not think that we were developing and testing new
Keep Space for Peace events at Vandenberg Air Force Base and El Segundo Space and Missile Center. McGregor has been issued a lifetime ban and bar by the military commandment of Vandenberg and is facing 3 federal trials for attending legal peace demonstrations in the designated protest area, where there's also 8 co-defendants. McGregor, welcome.
I'm glad to be here. I'm really pleased to be here. This is nice.
So tell me, why is this a passion of yours?
Well, it kind of caught me by surprise. I'd been busy raising children, working as a nurse, as all of us are. We don't go around looking for new problems. And as we were running up to the Iraq War in 2002, I found out about this place pretty close to us in Santa Barbara County, where they launch rockets that put satellites into space that actually control the war in Iraq and Afghanistan. Because thermonuclear warheads, you know, hydrogen bombs, they're all hydrogen bombs. Did you know that the atomic bomb is used as the trigger to set off the hydrogen bomb?
I had no idea.
That's it. They use they're so big, they use an atomic bomb to set off the hydrogen bomb. Anyway, that's what we have. And these bombs, we have 10,000 of them. And Russia has about the same amount. France and England have some, but I've been told that one of our Trident submarines has as many as France and England put together. So we're really talking Russia, the former Soviet Union, and the US. So, who are right now, yay, negotiating to reduce these. But there's a treaty called the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, which has gotten a great deal of publicity from the US, but mostly about other countries' obligations.